To understand the story of Esther, we need to place ourselves in the vast and powerful Persian Empire, ruled by King Ahasuerus, also known as Xerxes I. This kingdom was not only immense in size, stretching from India to Ethiopia, but also in power. It was a time of great wealth, diverse cultural influences, and a firm political structure where the king's authority was nearly absolute. After the Babylonian exile, many Jews were dispersed throughout this empire. They lived as foreigners in a land that was not their own, but where they had learned to survive and thrive. However, cultural and religious tensions always lingered. In the midst of this vast empire, we meet a young woman named Esther, who lived in Susa, the capital of the kingdom. But before we dive into her story, let's see what led to her unexpected rise. King Ahasuerus was known for his love of banquets and celebrations. In one of these grand feasts, which lasted no less than 180 days, the king, in a gesture of pride, asked his wife, Queen Vashti, to appear before the guests. He wanted to show off her beauty to all the dignitaries and nobles in attendance. But Vashti, in an act of boldness that defied the customs of the time, refused. Her rejection was a direct blow to the king's pride and a challenge to male authority, something unimaginable at that time. The king, furious and humiliated, consulted his advisors, who recommended that he remove her from her position. Thus, Vashti was stripped of her title as queen, but Ahasuerus needed a new wife, a new queen to stand by his side on the throne of Persia. To find a new queen, Ahasuerus ordered that the most beautiful women from across the empire be brought to the palace to be presented before him. And here is where our protagonist enters the scene. Esther, a young Jewish woman, humble but endowed with exceptional beauty and grace, was one of the candidates. Esther had been raised by her cousin Mordecai, a wise man, who had advised her to keep her Jewish identity a secret for her own safety. During a long period of preparation, Esther was adorned with perfumes and cared for, as was the custom for women aspiring to become queen. But it wasn't just her physical beauty that impressed the king, it was also her nobility and wisdom. After meeting many women, King Ahasuerus chose Esther as his new queen. And so, a young Jewish woman went from being an anonymous figure to becoming the queen of Persia. But what few knew was that in this new queen beat the heart of a savior. Parallel to Esther's rise, another key figure emerged in the court. Haman, an ambitious and arrogant man who quickly rose to power as one of the most influential officials in the kingdom. Haman demanded that everyone bow before him as a sign of respect and submission. However, Mordecai, true to his Jewish beliefs, refused to bow down. This act of rebellion enraged Haman. He was not only personally offended, but decided that punishing Mordecai alone was not enough. He wanted to eliminate all the Jews in the empire. If you like the video, please like and subscribe to support the channel. Haman manipulated the king, convincing him that the Jews were a threat to his reign and that they needed to be eliminated. Ahasuerus, trusting his official, agreed to his demands and issued a deadly decree. On a specific date, all the Jews in the empire would be annihilated. When Mordecai heard about the decree, his anguish was profound. He knew that the only hope for his people was his cousin Esther, now queen, but he also knew that asking her to intercede with the king would be dangerous. In a desperate message, he asked her to speak with Ahasuerus and reveal her identity to save their people. Esther found herself at a crossroads. In the Persian court, approaching the king without being summoned was a deadly risk. Only if the king extended his scepter would she be spared from execution. Mordecai reminded her of something crucial, and who knows, but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. These words resonated deeply in her heart. Esther decided to fast for 3 days along with her people, preparing herself for the dangerous step she was about to take. After this time of reflection and prayer, she courageously presented herself before the king. The king, surprised but pleased to see her, extended his scepter toward Esther, allowing her to speak. But instead of making her request immediately, Esther acted wisely. She invited the king and Haman to a special banquet. During the first banquet, Esther did not reveal her intention. Instead, she invited the king and Haman to a second banquet the following day. The suspense grew, and Haman, in his arrogance, suspected nothing. At the second banquet, Esther finally spoke. With great courage, she revealed that she herself was Jewish and that her people were doomed to die because of Haman. The king, realizing that his own queen was in danger because of the decree he had signed, angrily asked who was responsible. Esther pointed to Haman, who, paralyzed by fear, could not defend himself. Ahasuerus ordered Haman's execution on the very gallows that Haman had prepared for Mordecai. With Haman out of the picture, Mordecai was promoted to a high position in the kingdom. However, the decree against the Jews could not be revoked. Therefore, a new edict was issued, allowing the Jews to defend themselves against their enemies. When the appointed day arrived, the Jews fought back and achieved a great victory. In gratitude for their salvation, the festival of Purim was instituted, a celebration that continues to this day. And so concludes the incredible story of Esther, a story that teaches us about the power of faith, courage, and the importance of acting at the right moment. Esther, a young woman who started as an anonymous figure, became a heroine who saved her entire people. This story remains a symbol of hope, not only for the Jewish people, but for all those who seek justice and redemption. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time and history. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. I'll see you in the next video with more fascinating stories. Until next time.